Today we're going to learn about moving the same piece too many times in chess. I call this multi-moving because you're moving the same piece multiple times. And it's not generally a good thing to do at the beginning of a chess game. When you're trying to checkmate at the end of a game, sometimes multi-moving becomes required. But at the beginning of a game, it's usually not good. So let's look at what happens when you do this. So moving the same piece too many times in the opening means you're wasting time. Wasting time in chess means you are not attacking the middle, you're not castling, you're not developing your pieces, and you're not attacking the middle. Wasting time also means that you do not have any plans and you do not understand what your opponent's plans are either. So multi-moving is pretty bad. So let's look at an example. So here we go. So far everything is okay in this kind of situation, but let's say they bring the queen out like this. Okay, well you shouldn't really bring your queen out early in the beginning anyway. And the reason for that is this multi-moving problem. So let's say the queen moves here. Uh-oh, we're moving the queen multiple times. So we attack like this. She attacks again. And then, uh-oh, look. The bishop's attacking the queen, so now the queen moves to here. Now there's a fork. Uh-oh. And now we're losing pieces to keep our queen. You see, so we move here to keep our queen, and uh-oh, we're losing. So you can see this is getting really bad. You know, if the knight moves here, this is really bad. And then it moves here with check. Actually, maybe that was, just take it. But as you can see, white has lost a lot of pieces because they kept having to move their queen over and over. A lot of times people feel like when you move the same piece over and over, or the queen, that you'll end up losing the queen. But you can lose other pieces too. It's not just the queen. So that's the first example. So let's look at another example of what happens when you move your queen too much. So right now, black has played queen takes d5, and this is an opening called the Scandinavian defense, and it is a good opening. So moving your queen out once and then trying to run away with it is okay. Like this right here. This is all acceptable. It's really difficult to attack the queen right here. The only way you could do it is by giving them another pawn for free, and that's not really a good move. So let's keep going and see how this game goes. So it looks like white has brought their queen out as well. And you'll notice that there's a threat over here on the b7 square. And again, so far this is okay too. But we're about to see some not so good things. So for example, this move right here, a little bit advanced, we've got two pieces attacking the knight at the same time. So let's say black didn't understand that. And then we capture here. Uh-oh, there's a fork. The king moves over. We take the rook for free. This is really bad. So this is the kind of thing that you want to avoid having happen. So what black does is they play queen to b6 so that they can guard the knight a second time and avoid losing the rook. But you'll notice that they've moved their queen to here, then to here, then to here. So this is not too good. Whereas white has only moved their queen once, and nothing is really able to attack the white queen in this position. So let's continue. Uh-oh, look at that. The knight moves to here, attacking the queen. Now this is kind of funny. This is a video about multi-moving and not doing it. And we've moved our knight 2 times. But notice they've moved their queen 3 times. So whoever is multi-moving the most is usually the person who makes the biggest errors. So here's a funny situation. If black were to take this bishop, we would be able to take here and attack the queen and the king and the rook all at the same time. So black doesn't want to take there. So instead, black plays queen to a5, which still watches this square and doesn't fall for the little trap. However, we can play b4. And as you can see, we are threatening to take the queen, and the pawn is defended. And everywhere else the queen can move, the queen will be captured for free. So for example, if she moves here, we have a bishop capture. If she moves here or here, the white bishop or the light square bishop can capture. If the queen moves here or here, the knight can capture. And there's really nothing else that can happen. So losing the queen for free would be worse. So they take there, we get the fork, and then we win the queen for free. So that's what happens when you bring the queen out too early. Let's look what happens when you move the knight too much. Okay, so here we go. Oh no, that was, and actually I will point out, this is an opening right here called Alekhine's defense. It's okay, normally you put your knight here, they might attack you again, and then you go over here, and that's pretty much it. So this would be the normal way to bring your knight out in multi-move, and it would be okay. But going right here is really bad. This is not so good. So watch this. So the pawn moves forward. We have to move the knight again. And then we go here. The knight has to move again. He's all the way on the edge. Moving the knight on the edge of the board is not usually very good. Worse than that is making, 4 moves to move your knight on the edge, because that's wasting time and your knight has bad positioning. So this is not good at all. Black could have done a lot better. So let's look at what happens when the bishop is moved too much. So here we go. So far, everything is normal. Moving your bishop out 1 square is normal. That's okay. And we traded off our bishop there. This is all very normal. This opening is called the Roy Lopez. So you'll notice that a lot of times you bring pieces out and things, do move more than once, and that's kind of normal. It's when you do it too much that's the problem. So let's look at what happens with this bishop to g4. So moving here is probably fine, but we have h3, and we can see how much this bishop is moving, and that's not so good. Now, this position for white is also not perfectly great because their king is a little weaker, but we have seen that this bishop has moved 3 times so far. So let's continue the game and see how this goes. Okay, now we see the bishop has moved 4 times. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. And again, moving the same piece multiple times is sometimes okay, but when you do it too much is the problem. So here we go. We now have a rook attacking that bishop. That bishop's going to have to move again. They try to not move it again by making the queen defend it, but watch what happens. Uh-oh, the knight comes out with 2 attacks, and now the queen is having to move multiple times, and the bishop moved 4 times. And now, because of the pin on the queen, and the knight guards the rook, we lose the queen. So Black's problem here was they moved their pieces too many times. They moved their bishop too much, and they moved their queen too much. So that would not be a good thing to do. What happens if you move your pawns too much? So let's see how that looks. So far, nobody's really moved too many pawns too many times. We have pawn moved to e5 and took. That was 2 pawn moves. That's okay. We've also seen our knight move 3 times, but you'll notice that it's Black's turn, and Black has, well, actually in this position, Black should have played here so that both sides have 1 piece developed. So everything is okay. Nobody's moved anything too much. Everything is equal. However, for the moving pawns too much example, we move here, and this is not a good move. So now we can see that we're moving way too many pawns. And as you move too many pawns, you end up not developing your pieces on your back row, and it can cause other problems for you. So we'll look at this kind of thing. And as you can see, uh-oh, they lost their rook. They lost their queen with check. all this stuff is no good, and we have a simple checkmate. So moving your pawns too much basically means your pieces don't get off the back row, they're not attacking the middle, you can't castle your king, and you're not really doing anything. So to conclude, we're going to look at what is good development for both sides. And we'll see that in this example here, nobody's moving anything too many times. Like you'll notice, we did move the bishop twice, but this is okay um, because we're not really behind in development. It only becomes a problem when you move the same piece too many times. So here you can see we have moved this knight 3 times, and we're looking to move it a 4th time to the f5 square. But you'll notice that black mostly has rooks and queens on the back row. That's okay early in the game. All their knights and bishops are out. And if anything, we have a bishop on C1 that hasn't developed yet. So white is maybe a little bit behind, but it's not a big deal. As you can see, they're going to be able to develop their bishop very quickly, and it's actively attacking on the king side. So this is a good bishop anyway, even though it hasn't moved yet. So just remember, multi-moving is not good. You want to avoid it. It's okay to move the same piece more than once if there's a threat or a purpose to it. But the main goal is to make sure that you're not getting behind on development. That's the main idea. If you're getting behind and you're not getting your pieces off the back row, then multi-moving is a huge, huge problem. So